Jai Hind everyone. Welcome to my YouTube channel, which is Explore Yourselves, Banking and General Knowledge, etc. Memoir of my banking journey by Mr. V.H. Ramakrishnan, retired General Manager of Bank of India. Episode number 28. The chapter Kenyan Safari is completed and new chapter is my experiences as a branch manager. The link of earlier episodes is available in description. My experiences as a branch manager. Preamble. I am going to take you back 40 years in time. It was 1976. I had written in my Kenyan safari about the circumstances under which I got a posting as branch manager of Vellore branch. So I will not repeat them again. I had completed 10 years of service in the bank. In fact, I was designated as agent of Vellore branch. In those days, branch head was known as agent and not as manager. The designation of manager was given only to the main branch head in a city or town where there were many more than one branch. For example, head of Madras branch was known as manager, whereas the heads of Mount Road, Mylapore, etc. were known as agents. I have no idea how this term agent came into existence. However, within a year of my working in Vellore branch, the head office decided to change the designations of all the agents as managers. Vellore. Vellore is the headquarters of North Arcot district. It is easily accessible from Chennai. In those days, there were no Shatabdi trains between Chennai and Bangalore. The most popular train was the Brindavan Express. It used to leave Chennai Central at 6 a.m. and would stop at Katpadi Junction at 8 a.m. By that time, you could get hot breakfast in the train. One should get down at Katpadi and could reach Vellore by taxi or auto within half an hour. Vellore was a trading center. It had a big jaggery market. Vegetables and groceries were very cheap. In fact, 1 kilo of tomatoes used to cost only 50 paise. I used to feel shy to ask for half kilo and would end up buying 1 kg, much more than what we all could consume. Vellore was famous in those days because of the Christian Medical College, popularly known as CMC. It had an excellent hospital which was famous for heart surgery. I'll write about CMC later. Nowadays, Vellore has also become famous because of a golden temple consecrated in 2007. It has now become a religious tourist attraction. Branch. Vellore branch was opened in 1973. Mr. R. Natarajan was the first agent. He did a wonderful job in building up business. I took over him from him. In fact, it was swap. I was heading the community banking department at zonal office and was posted to Vellore branch as agent. Natarajan was posted as head of community banking department at zonal office. The branch was located in the midst of the Jagadi Mandi. It was on the first floor. The building was connecting two streets. Sometimes people used to use our premises as a shortcut. They would climb the staircase from one street, pass through the banking hall, and get down the staircase at the other end and enter the second street. Both the cash safe and the security document safe were kept in the manager's cabin. Security was non existent. Those days, even security guards were not provided to a branch. We had also taken the second floor. Later on, the branch was shifted to a better premises but away from the Jagadi Mandi. Handing over charge. Those days, there was a proper procedure for handing over and taking over. The new incumbent had to go through all the documents taken in the accounts and confirm that everything was in order. It took about 21 days for me to take charge. Nataraj introduced me to the important customers, our approved lawyers, etc. Compare this with today's scenario where the outgoing and incoming managers hardly spend any time together. Natarajan had built up a very good team. Unfortunately, one of the accounts he had finished had gone bad and he was quite upset about it. Luckily, nothing adverse ever happened to him, but the incident shook shook his self-confidence. He was a very sensitive person. I was indeed very lucky to have an excellent predecessor. He had full control over everything. The team. And introductions to the team is essential since many of them progressed very well in the bank. There were two officers. One was Mr. Balakrishnan from Kochi. He was an active trade unionist, and on his promotion as an officer, he was posted to Vellore. The accountant was Mr. one V. Venkataraman. I had known Venkataraman as he was a clerk in Chennai when I joined. Since there were a few Venkataramans, he was known as Kulla Venkaraman, short Venkataraman. On his promotion as an officer, Venkataraman went to Satna in Madhya Pradesh. One day when he was coming to the bank, suddenly someone put a cloth over his head and then with a knife chopped off his finger and took away the gold ring which he was wearing. He narrated the incident with a smile and showed me his disfigured finger. He was thorough with routine and commanded good respect from the staff. I had to admit at this stage that I was never exposed to routine banking, counter service, and was a bit unsure initially on technical issues like endorsements. Venkatraman was a great support. P. Thanikachalam was the chief cashier clerk, a very pleasant and intelligent person with ambition. He rose very well in the bank. He was selected for foreign posting. I came to international banking as GM after his selection. I placed him in Tokyo as number two. I think he was designated as manager at Tokyo branch. Mr. A.C. Mahajan was the CEO of Japan branches. Thanikachalam did a very good job. When I visited Tokyo along with our then chairman, Mr. K.V. Krishnamurthy, we had delicious breakfast at his place. At that moment, I was thinking, who would have imagined that a cashier of Vellore branch will be the manager of Tokyo branch and would entertain the chairman. I felt very proud about Thanikachalam. He retired as AGM and has happily settled down at Kanchipuram. Jayabalan, the second cashier, was a smart, handsome boy. He was also eager to go up in the bank. He also retired as AGM in BG South. CS Veeraraghavan was the clerk in charge of credit, very knowledgeable person. I was sure he would also come up. He did a good job as chief manager at Opera House branch and retired as deputy general manager. Leela was one of the two lady clerks. She belonged to Vellore proper, quite smart and intelligent, very confident with numbers, also very good in singing. After her promotion, she went to Odisha, earned a very good name. Later on, she landed in Mumbai and knowing her strength in numbers, she was placed in reconciliations in the treasury by Mr. G. Narayanan. She did such an excellent job that Narayanan sent her abroad for a training. Leela retired as a chief manager. She could have gone up further, but again she sacrificed her future for the sake of family. Ramamurthy was a soft-spoken person, very efficient. He picked up good knowledge in advances. He chose his life partner in Vellore. Yes, it was Leela. But they waited till both became officers, then got happily married. When I saw GM, I heard a news that Ramamurthy wanted to take VRS under the scheme announced by the bank in late 90s and that Leela was to continue. I called both of them and advised Ramamurthy not to take VRS. I told him my reasons. He listened to my advice and continued in the bank. I lost track of other clerks. I remembered that Sitamarai Kannan had a beautiful handwriting and his ledger used to get balanced first. Saroja was the baby of the team, very innocent and sincere. MS Rangarajan had a timid person. I understand he got promoted as an officer. We had two sipais. Both got transferred to their native places. We had two part-time sipais, cleaners, Kanagasan and Anbu. I think Kanagasan was on two-third salary of a sipai and Anbu was one-third. These two boys were of excellent behavior. One of them would always wait and help us in putting down the shutters and locking the branch. We, we could make both of them regular sipais and now both are clerks. I spoke to them on phone about a couple of years back. LPs. People used to say the following are the wonders of Vellore: fort without a king, temple without an idol, Jalagandeswara temple within the fort. The idol was taken away by the enemies during a war. Police without power. Vellore had a police academy. River without water. Though Palar River flows through Vellore, it is always dry. I had never seen water in that river during my tenure. Hills without trees. Vellore is surrounded by rocks. If I mention this, feminists will be after my blood, so I leave it to your guess. Next chapter, the first challenge. A sad news. While drafting this chapter onward, I heard the news that Natarajan passed away. A fine gentleman. I will be writing more about him in this series. First challenge. While taking charge, I had noticed that every day the manager and the officers used to leave the office only after 8 p.m. On Saturdays, they used to leave at 6 p.m. They would come in all Sundays and work till 2 p.m. The clerks used to work late on weekdays depending on overtime availability. Normally, they would go at 5 p.m. Many clerks were recruited by Mr. Natarajan, so there was a personal loyalty to him. All this was strange to me. At Zonal office, we never used to stay late, never stepped into the office on a Sunday. The main reason for staying late at the branch was the balancing of ledgers. Everything was a manual, including writing of statements of accounts of the customers. Natarajan used to sit late and work with full enthusiasm. After I took charge, I did not make any changes. For about a month, I continued the same practice, including coming on Sundays. Then I decided it was time to make the first change. I called both my officers. I told them that I am dead against coming to the office on Sundays. I said if need be, we will work a little more on weekdays but to take off on Sundays. Needless to say, both of them happily agreed. My next target was to close the office early on Saturdays. I gradually br- brought it about 5 p.m., but I could not help sitting late on weekdays. Our branch had to send a lot of TTs every day, mainly because of Jagari trade. Those days we used to have a test key system. Every TT had to be presented by a code prepared with test key. The receiving branch would decode with their test key and pass the entries. All this testing could be done only after say 5 p.m. I analyzed the situation. I worked out the formula given by O&M department head office for calculating the adequacy of staff. I found out that the branch was highly understaffed. Mr. Natarajan was highly cost conscious. Since any increase in staff would bring down his profit, he did not venture to ask for additional staff. According to me, the branch needed another 5 PMs. I had one more problem. For the past 8 years, as head of community banking department, I had the luxury of a stenographer. I had never written a draft by hand. In Vellore, I had to write all letters by hand and give it to the typist. With all this in mind, I submitted my request to head office O&M department for additional staff. I also made out a case for a stenographer. Mrs. Ramani was heading the O&M department at head office. I had met her quite a few times at Chennai. I took the liberty of talking to her and requested her to consider my request favorably, especially regarding the stenographer. After a few days, I got the approval from her for additional posts. I do not remember how many, but the important thing was she approved the request for a stenographer. Vellore was the only urban branch in South which had a stenographer. That was a real luxury. Meeting culture. In the morning, all the staff members would sign the attendance register and then march towards my cabin and say good morning, one by one. No one would come late. Invariably, Thanikachalam and Jayabalan would be the first to arrive as they would like to open the cash counter at sharp 10. Similarly, in the evening, also before going home, each one would come to my cabin and say good night. This was not the practice in Chennai. Everyone used to be in hurry to catch the bus or train. Sane advice. Mr. Natarajan gave me a very good advice. He told me something like this: Ramakrishnan, this is a small town. Here, the branch manager is considered as a person with a lot of knowledge and authority. Anything you say would be taken seriously, and the news would spread in the market very quickly. So you have to be very careful in what you tell the customers. I had an occasion to realize how true this statement was. Not one was in his habit of allowing temporary overdraft in the current accounts of traders with the conditions that it should be repaid before the last Friday of the month. I found that the customers were also happy with this system. This also gave an opportunity to the manager to test the customer before giving regular facilities. Since I came from a lending department, I thought it would be better to give regular facilities instead of temporary overdrafts, which created a tension before the last Friday. So I casually told one TOD customer that I would prefer giving him regular facilities instead of TODs. I do not know what he understood. I found in the next few days that he had stopped operating the account. Not only he, but also few more customers who were enjoying TOD facilities. I called one of them to the bank and asked him as to why he had stopped operating the accounts. He said he learned from the market that I would not be granting any temporary overdrafts. Hence, he had stopped operating the account. I assured him that I would continue to give TODs and that there was a communication gap. Talking of TODs, I also realized for the first time about usurious rate of interest. One of our customers had a current account. He also used to avail TOD facilities and was very prompt in clearing the same. He was very religious and humble. He would go to the temple and then come to the bank. One day he explained his modus operandi. He would take a TOD of rupees 5,000 in the morning and go to the market and give a loan of rupees 100 each to about 50 vegetable vendors. In the evening, he would collect rupees 110 from each. That worked out to an interest of 10% per day. The vendor did not mind paying rupees 10 as interest as he would be earning about rupees 25 as profit on an investment of rupees 100. I felt uncomfortable. There was a person who was borrowing from the bank at the rate of 15 or 16% per annum and earning at the rate of 10% per day. Should I stop lending him? I spent a sleepless night. Finally, I reconciled myself to the facts of life and continued lending him. I knew very well that the bank could not step into his shoes. We did not have the mechanism to do that. If we give a loan of rupees, say rupees 3,000, then it may not be utilized for the business as his requirement was only rupees 100 per day. I remembered an incident told by late K. Meenakshi Sundaram, who was manager of Tiruchirappalli branch. There was a cobbler sitting in front of the branch for almost 25 years. When the DRI scheme was introduced, KMS called the cobbler and gave him a loan of rupees 5,000. The next day, the cobbler vanished. He had never seen so much money and perhaps decided to start a new life elsewhere. Landed on the ground. I used to say that the lending banker tends to become an arrogant banker. The reason is simple. The borrowers always pamper a person who lends them money. They always flatter him. They are ready and eager to help him. They would like to keep him in good humor. Thus, gradually, the lending banker starts feeling he is all powerful and can get anything done. All this arrogance would vanish once he lands at a branch and faces the problems of the counter. This happened to me also, though I believe I had not become arrogant. I was grounded in valor by a customer. One day I heard a raised voice at the counter. I came out of the cabin. I saw a Purohit, Sastrigal in Tamil, arguing with a counter clerk. The Purohit had a deposit receipt of rupees 10,000 in his hand. The clerk had committed some mistakes in the receipt. The Purohit lost his cool and was shouting at the top of his voice. I called him inside and tried to pacify him, but he continued to use strong language. It took quite some time for me to pacify him, and I promised to rectify the mistakes. That was an eye opener for me. In spite of all my high qualifications, I had to literally beg the customers to forgive us for the mistake. That was real banking. I had to be patient for another reason. I knew that the Purohit would be visiting many houses for performing various religious ceremonies. If he was not satisfied, he would have only bad words to talk about the bank with his clients. That would have brought adverse publicity for us. If he was satisfied, then he would spread some good words about us. Anyway, after 10 years of service, I realized what is field level banking on what that day. It had a lasting impressions on me. Lesson I learned. When you take charge, do not be in a hurry to change the established practices. Study the impact carefully. Customers think that a branch manager is a very knowledgeable person. Even after retirement, when you introduce yourself to a stranger, he would ask you in which branch were you the manager. For public, that is the highest post. So be careful what you talk. Whatever is your qualifications or expertise, one term as manager is essential to learn ground realities. Tailpiece. The Vellore Mutiny on 10th July 1806 was the first violent mutiny of Indian sepoys against East India Company, but it lasted only one day. 200 British soldiers were killed and 100 mutineers were executed. The reason was religious sentiment. Hindu soldiers were not allowed to wear religious marks on their forehead. Muslim soldiers were told to remove their beards and trim their mustaches. This mutiny took place 50 years before the rebellion of 1857. CMC. The name of Vellore was synonymous with Christian Medical College, popularly known as CMC. I was in the process of taking over from Mr. Natarajan. I got a call from Mr. R.P. Baddo, who was our general manager. He told me that one Mr. Khade, brother of one of our officers, Dr. Khade, who later became the chief executive of Japan branches, had come for a checkup at CMC, and that his family had not heard anything from him for about a week. They were worried. Mr. Baddo wanted me to check with the hospital, so Natarajan and I rushed to the hospital. We went to the reception and made inquiries. The receptionist requested us to wait for a couple of minutes. He, he came exactly within 2 minutes and told us that Mr. Khade was an inpatient and gave us the ward number. I was surprised at the quick response. We went inside and met Mr. Khade. He had come to Vellore for a checkup. He was treated at CMC a few years back and had to come for regular checkups. This time he was admitted as there was a problem. He was very happy and emotional to see us as we are the first visitors to see him. We asked him whether he needed anything. He said he did not like the food and was longing for rotis. Natarajan was moved. He went back home and his wife made some nice rotis and sabji. He brought the food to the hospital and gave them to Mr. Khade, who had tears in his eyes. I contacted Mr. Baddo and gave him the feedback. After 2 days, we got the sad news from the hospital that Mr. Khade passed away. We informed the family and they came to Vellore to collect the mortal remains. During my tenure, I came across many such instances. This was mainly because patients came to CMS at the last stage, hoping for a miraculous recovery. Our staff members came from all over the country. There were no credit cards those days. They would come to the branch to encash traveler's checks. One thing I used to admire with CMC was their maintenance of records. Once I got a call to locate a patient, I went to the hospital and made inquiries. Within a couple of minutes, they told me that none by the name has come to the CMC during the past 1 month. Then they asked me to wait for 5 minutes. After 5 minutes, I was informed that one person by their surname was treated as inpatient in 1958 and as an outpatient in 1972. I was amazed at their record keeping and spirit service. Please note that it all happened in a pre-computer era. A couple of years back, I had been to Bhutan. The driver of the car, on learning that I was from southern part of the country, told me that he had visited Vellore. It appeared his child had a problem and the Bhutanese government sent him to CMC. They have an arrangement with CMC. The Bhutanese government also has a guest house in Vellore, all at government cost. The local people of Vellore used to go to CMC even for treatment of ordinary cold. Even though I tried my best to secure an account of CMC, I could not succeed. However, I was happy to learn that one of my successors in Ramamurthy, a dynamic officer, succeeded in establishing relationship. Palace Cafe and Chapadij. Palace Cafe was one of the old and famous hotel in Vellore. It was very close to the branch. I was told that it was the parent organization of the famous Ratna Cafe in Chennai. In the evenings, Palace Cafe used to serve chapatis and kurma. It was one of the best delicacies the hotel offered. I used to promise my children that I would get those chapatis and kurma in the evening. Anbu used to get a parcel for me around 6:30 p.m. But something or other would delay my departure. I did not have a car. Ultimately, I would be leaving only after 8 p.m. I used to take a cycle rickshaw and reach home around 9 p.m. No telephone at home. By the time I reached home, my children would have slept after waiting indefinitely. This used to happen on many evenings. Even today, I used to feel bad that I could not reach home in time. Well, I am sure many other officers would have had similar experiences. This is part of life. Social network. I had mentioned in my Kenyan safari that I was an active Freemason. I found that there was no Masonic lodge in Vellore. Then my friends in Freemasonry from Chennai told me that there was a lodge in Chittor by the name of Lodge Hamik. My immediate job after taking charge was to find out whether anyone from Vellore was a member of that lodge. I contacted the secretary of the Chittor lodge. He informed me that the owner of Bombay Electricals in Vellore was a member. It was a well-known shop in Vellore, but they were not our customers. It was owned, if I remember correct, by Gujaratis. I contacted the partner over phone. He said he would be happy to take me with him for the lodge meetings. He also called on me one day. Chittor was 37 kilometers from Vellore, connected by a good road. On both sides of the road were small hills. It took less than an hour to reach the lodge. On the outskirts of the town, inside a jungle, an old colonial style building located in picturesque surroundings. I really loved the place. We always enjoyed our return journey with moonlight shining over the hills. On reaching Vellore, we used to stop at a shop and have a badam milk. I am not sure whether it was badam milk or apple milkshake. It was a specialty of Vellore. This ritual was followed every month as we used to have meetings once in a month. The first time I also joined Lions Club in Vellore. That was one way of knowing the local VIPs. Besides, the bank used to reimburse the membership fees. I do not know whether such parks are still allowed in the bank. If so, every manager should utilize such facilities. Social networking is very essential. Visit of regional manager. Soon after my taking charge, Mr. R. Paramasaran, our regional manager, general manager, visited the branch. I received him and then took him for breakfast to an air-conditioned restaurant opposite to CMC. It was the only AC restaurant in Vellore. Mr. Paramasaran asked me whether the restaurant had its accounts with us. I said no. Then Mr. Paramasaran gave an unforgettable advice. He told me, Ramakrishnan, our bank should have the accounts of the best restaurant, best cinema theater, and best shop, etc. People like Mr. Paramasaran always thought of the progress of the bank. After spending a couple of hours at the branch, we proceeded to Kalasapakkam branch. It was a rural branch, the only other branch in the then North Arcot district. I had informed the manager, Mr. T.J. Manivannan, about the visit. Manivannan was a soft-spoken officer whom I knew from my Chennai days. He later became the president of Officers Association of Southern Zone. He said he would arrange for lunch. We reached the branch after about 45 minutes drive. Manivannan had arranged for a sumptuous feast for lunch, obviously prepared from his house. Never expected such lavish hospitality at a rural branch. I also met Mr. M. Hariharan, a clerk at the branch. He was a bright young man about whom my colleagues at Vellore have told me already. Little did I know that in future he would go to London as a trainee or that he would be working with me when I was in charge of international development and treasury at the head office. He would have easily become a general manager and beyond, but chose not to seek promotions after skill 3 for personal reasons. Mr. Paramastaran was very happy with his visit to the rural branch. Lessons I learned. Social networking is very important for a branch manager. Bank of India should have the account of the best in each category of business in the town. Tailpiece. All Tamil films would be released in Vellore theaters simultaneously when they were released in Chennai. I saw the movie Anakili, which introduced a new music director called Ilayaraja. Rest is history. I had failed in my driving test in Chennai when I was asked to draw 8. It was with Austin A40. Now in Vellore, with my designation as manager of Bank of India, I tried for the driving license. I was tested on the road. Thank God, no aid business. Got my driving license. I had borrowed a Fiat car for the test. The chapter, my experiences as a branch manager, will continue. Thank you very much for your patience. Request for like, subscribe, and share.